I'm Craig Kenneth, a relationship coach and a psychotherapist. Every relationship is different and every breakup is different. Work with me and you'll get professional help on your situation. And if you're in no contact focused on personal growth, my Knowledge Workbook series and Creative Healing course can help you make changes like you've never made before. Available now at AskCraig.net. Hi there, I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And in this video, we're going to be talking to you about they soft launched the breakup. This happens a lot where somebody starts to hint that they're unhappy, little things here and there, and you don't really think too much of it at the time. But then afterwards, you're like, oh my gosh, there were clues, there were signs.
And this term soft launch has been going around social media to basically mean that when somebody hints at or when somebody alludes to something happening, kind of like a maybe business soft launching their opening, right? They're like building hype around it. They're kind of letting people know in a way. And an ex can do this in a lot of different ways, but sometimes it can look like when they try to break up with you, but then it doesn't fully work, or it's like they're starting a breakup conversation, but then you're able to kind of reel them back in and save in the moment. And you feel like, oh, okay, we worked through that.
Yeah.
It can also look like them asking for a break. This is something that we see sometimes.
Break is big.
They ask for a break, and then later they're like, you know what? Okay, let's not do a break. Let's stay together. And then follows a breakup.
Yes. I always remember a part from Seinfeld where Jerry's like, oh, you guys are going to get back together. And I think it was Elaine. She's like, how do you know? And he's like, because a breakup is like tipping over a Coke machine. You have to go back and forth rocking it before you get it over. You don't get it over on the first try.
That's a good analogy. I always think of the Friends where Ross goes, we were on a break.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's so true. So they can get really confusing because it's like, even though you may be on a break, whatever you do during that break really impacts the other person.
Oh, yeah. And sometimes exes will ask for a break, but then they'll back out of it, or maybe you convince them out of it, and then it just results in a breakup.
Or sometimes they'll break up with you, and then the next day they change their mind.
Yeah.
And then you get back with them, and then you break up again right away. Right?
So you could see that they're like teetering on the decision. And another way that an ex can quote unquote soft launch the breakup is sometimes they signal to you about the end. So they'll signal that this wasn't supposed to be forever, or they're making preparations to be single again. Maybe they tell you that they're moving out and they're like, well, we're still together. I just want to move out and be on my own. Or you start to notice that their social media is changing. Maybe they take down their relationship status. Maybe they start to show up to events on their own or stop inviting you to events that you used to be invited to.
That's a big one. Like all of a sudden they start going out with their friends. That's a big one. You see them starting to go out with their friends before their breakup, and you're like, oh, well, they're just spending time with their friends. But then you realize it's like sometimes there's somebody else in the picture that, is maybe surrounding their work group or friends with their work group. And all of a sudden they, start to see where it's going with this new person. But, we have to be responsible for our relationship and taking care of that connection. And a lot of us take that for granted. We don't make sure we're giving our partner what they need. A lot of times we can become selfish and self-absorbed, and we just assume that this person is going to stay with us. And so we kind of ignore how well the relationship is going. And sometimes we just think, we're not doing so good right now, but it'll get better.
Right. And the truth is, a lot of exes, they'll think about the breakup way before it happens.
Yep.
So they'll be ruminating on it. They'll feel ambivalent about it. They're kind of thinking about their decision. And sometimes they get to the point where they're making pros and cons lists in their mind. And so when you're starting to feel that tension or doubt, a lot of people tend to, try to make up for it or fix it and end up overwhelming their partner.
Yep.
And that can speed up the process. Some of you will put the words in your ex's mouth or in your partner's mouth where you can start to see that they're soft launching the breakup and you're like, no, you want to break up and I know it and I can feel it and let's just break up. And you kind of act in this impulsive way that can end it sooner as well. And there can be this feeling of inevitability. Oh, this is going to happen anyways. And it's happening and it's scary. And
it's awful. It's an awful feeling.
so an ex soft launches a breakup for a lot of different reasons. Ambivalence is a big one of those reasons. And there could be something that's tethering to the relationship for them. Maybe it's the two of you have just signed a lease. Maybe it's you have a big commitment coming up. It could also be that there's enough good and joy and connection in the relationship that keeps them hanging on for a bit, but there's some serious deal breaker issues that are present as well.
Yep. Yeah. So they can experience a lot of conflict and you just don't know it because they're not going to say it a lot of times that they've been thinking about leaving or that they've been unhappy for a while. And then all of a sudden they just kind of end things or hint that things are going to end. And, they ask for a break. That's a big one. And then you're in panic mode and you just are overwhelmed with anxiety.
Yeah. They may also be soft launching the breakup because they're almost testing to see how it might be if they were to be on their own.
Good point. I want to see what this feels like. And sometimes they're like if they like somebody new and they start talking with them for a little bit and then it's not going so well, they get scared and come running back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or if they end up moving out or start doing things more independently, they're kind of getting this wind of freedom that they might not have had in the relationship, or they're starting to feel more like themselves. Maybe there's parts of themselves that they lost in the relationship that they're starting to experience again. They may also soft launch the breakup because they're afraid that you won't fully accept their decision if they would just break up with you. So we know that when you're in a relationship, you want to protect that with all of your heart. And for especially relationships that are really intertwined, it can be a very difficult decision to end that. So they might say, well, let me hint to it for the next couple months so that they can kind of mentally prepare. And, maybe they'll be more accepting of it because there's many of you who will not relent. When an ex tries, quote unquote, to break up with you and they're saying, yes, things are over. I don't know about this. I don't think I can continue. Many of you push and push and push and will try to force your ex into staying, or some of you will force your ex into leaving. You just try to force a decision and force clarity right in the moment.
Yeah.
And don't give that person a moment to process.
It's really hard to sit with uncertainty in life. And it's one of the big struggles that I think people have.
Oh, yeah.
Is they want to know. They don't want to not know. That's why no contact is so difficult. I want to know, are they going to come back? Are they not going to come back? And the truth is that they often don't know, or they don't think they'll come back. And then they do when they feel their loss.
Right. Right. We have to let people go through their own processes, and it's hard when somebody is pulling away or doing things that allude to a breakup. That sends us into panic mode automatically. So I get it. It's really visceral. It's really painful. It's really anxiety producing. And we almost feel like that intense fear of impending doom, kind of like a cow led to slaughter.
Yeah.
And we feel like something bad's going to happen and there's nothing that we can do to stop it. The best thing that you can do in those moments is to take care of yourself, is to be able to be as centered as possible. Your ex is going to make whatever decision they're going to make. Sometimes couples are able to push through that, but sometimes that breakup itself and that decision is something that's needed, and it's not something that can be forced. Ultimately, you want your ex to reconsider the relationship because they are reconsidering being with you, not because you're forcing them into a decision.
And usually the feeling the loss and the anxiety of losing you is what makes them come back. But they need to feel that at their own speed, which is often at a different speed than you have. So that's why you're filled with so much anxiety. But yes, a lot of times there are signs that something is off. Something is wrong. They're pulling away. They're distant. They're spending more time with other people. They're not communicating as much. There are a lot of different things that someone can do when they're pulling away, and it can be really shocking when it happens. I just had a woman today who was ready to get an apartment with this guy. She could feel him pulling away. She was trying to say, look, I feel like something's going on. If you're not ready for this, just let me know. Trying to communicate with him. He kept reassuring her. saying, well, look, I have to put all this money down to sign the papers. Yes, this is what I want. She signs the papers, and the next day he's like, I got an apartment yesterday. I'm moving out. Horrible. Just horrible to do to somebody. I mean, what is he doing this for? To save her? Like, from hurting her feelings? It was way worse to do it like that than communicating ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's just awful to do.
Yeah, our emotions aren't always the most logical, and sometimes the thing that we're afraid to do causes us more pain because we're trying to avoid just being, direct. But we know that ambivalence is a big part of breakups, and being able to navigate that, being able to have patience with your partner through some of their ambivalence at times, being able to discuss doubts, that's an important relationship skill too. So sometimes we can't prevent the inevitable, but what we can do is take care of ourselves and prepare. A big part of why this is important and why we are talking about this topic is because many of you will look back at your relationship and say, well, what happened? I didn't know that we were going to break up, or this came out of nowhere.
Yep.
And many times there are little hints or soft launches that your ex was trying to, put towards you to kind of get you to see, hey, something's not totally right here, whether consciously or unconsciously.
Yep.
So as we're processing the breakup, as we're healing through the breakup, it's important to go back and review those things and be able to look at those things just so you have a better understanding of what went wrong, and so that you're better understanding the message that they were trying to convey. So
it's tough. And you may have even seen some different signs that we didn't cover today. So we'd love to hear it in the comments section. Please leave yours if you saw any signs afterwards, now that you're looking back, that you didn't pick up on at the time. And I bet a lot of people will be able to relate. Hopefully you've enjoyed this one. And of course, if you want to get our help personally, you could do that on my website, askcraig.net. I do email coaching and I do Zoom calls. Coach Victoria is also available for Zoom calls.
I'm here whenever you'd like to chat.
Just click on her name at the top of the website to schedule with her. But that's it for this video. I'm Coach Craig Kenneth.
And I'm Coach Victoria.
And we will talk with you soon.